All right, these are some of the things, kuta, these are some of the things that you have to get rid of. These are some of the things, ovrim, you have to get rid of on Pesach. Kuta chabavli, sheikha mitzri, chometz adomi, zisom mitzri. Kuta chabavli, don't say kuta chabavli. Babylonian curds and whey, something. We'll see what all these things are. Midian beer from Media, vinegar from Adomi, Zaysom Mitzri. We'll see what these things are. Also, Zoman Shel Tzavayim, something left over from the painters, and Amilan, starch from the Tabachim, from the, well, either the slaughterers or the kitchens. We'll see. And the also some sort of colon, something from the scribes. And Rabbi Eliezer says also women's jewelry. Women's jewelry that has some sort of starch in it or chometz. We'll see. We'll see what this is. This is the general principle. Anything which is made from one of the 5 types of grains, wheat, rye, what do we say, spelt, barley, and oats. If you have this and there's water on it, you can transgress on Passover. And these are azara, but there's a warning. It's a forbidden thing, but it's not chorus. There's not the punishable of death from heaven, and we'll see why and we'll see what. Let's see. All right, ready? Anyone who eats a kazayat of chometz on Pesach is cut off by God. Usually it means the person dies before he's 60. Like it says, anyone who eats chametz v'nichrasa will be cut off the soul from the Jewish people. What are we talking about? When he eats chametz, complete chametz, and it's visible. In other words, he eats a piece of bread or eats something that you can see is chametz. But a person that eats chametz by means of being mixed in, that's mixed into something else, by beer, or he has a cholent or something, you don't see that chametz, then it's not guilty of koret. But if he eats a kazayas of chametz in this tarovas, and the time it takes to eat this akadei achilas pras, what's achilas pras? Let's say there's different opinions, 4 minutes, let's say. In other words, the time it takes to eat a half of a loaf of bread, which this is approximately 3 beitzim, let's say 6 pieces of bread, about that amount. Some people say it's 8 pieces of bread, the size of 8 pieces of bread. Anyway, a person, if he eats, let's say, drinks beer, and in this beer is found enough chametz that he eats 1 kazayas within, for our purposes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. There's different opinions how long this kadei achilas process is. Like it says, kol machmetzes lo tochilu, then a person like this, he doesn't get chorus, but he does get malkut. He gets beaten. Okay, there's 3 different types of punishments, like in the Torah. Like, let's say, for instance, even on Shabbat, right? A person on Shabbat. If a person transgresses Shabbat on purpose and he has a warning and there's witnesses and everything, then he gets killed in court. He gets killed by the court. If a person transgresses on Shabbat, but nobody sees him, he doesn't, then he gets what's called koret, gets cut off from heaven, and he dies before he's 60 years old. There are some crimes in Judaism that there is no punishment from the court. A person that eats food on Yom Kippur, for instance, a person that eats chametz on Passover. So there's no death penalty from the court. There's a death penalty from heaven. A death penalty from heaven. But on the other hand, if the person is warned and he does it anyway, then the penalty is lashes. He gets beaten. But that's only if he eats a proper amount. If he does not eat a proper amount or does the proper amount, then Shabbat also there's how much a person has to write. For instance, writing is forbidden. How much you have to write in order to be forbidden from the Torah. But if a person does less than the how do you say the critical mass that it takes to get punished from the Torah, he does a little bit. For instance, just with anything, let's say a person takes a little tiny piece of pork and he eats it, right, a little sliver. So he's not punished, but he did a sin. He did a sin, and then the sin, it's a sin. He went against God. Good, he didn't get punished. Means he gets away with it. It depends on how you look at it. Depends how you look at it. Not getting punished means you're getting away from it. Could be, right? Could be, maybe not. It's like, God forbid, if you shoot somebody randomly in the street and you don't get away with it, you don't get punished. So does that mean you didn't do a sin? You didn't do anything wrong? Right? Of course you did. You just didn't get punished because you didn't get caught in that case. Here, the same thing. If you do a small amount of a sin, less than the minimal amount to get punished for, so you don't get punished, but nevertheless it's considered to be a sin. If you did eat the proper amount and you did it on purpose in front of witnesses, right? Then it says that sometimes a person can get malchus, he can get beaten, lashes. So it says, if a person eats this proper amount, the forbidden amount of chametz within a forbidden amount of time, a certain minimum amount of time, so then it says he gets malchus, he gets beaten. If he eats visible chametz and he does it on purpose, then the punishment is he gets cut off from heaven. Our Mishnah is coming to tell us all sorts of not visible chametz, mixtures of chametz, that there is not the critical amount of chametz, like a kazayat, and the time that it takes to eat a pras. Let's say for our purposes it's 5 minutes. And also another type of chametz, which also is in this category. It's not really forbidden from the Torah that you get the punishment of koret. It's called chametz nuksha. Chametz nuksha means sort of like light chametz. Hainu chametz that's not fit to eat. It comes to tell us, according to the Ran and the Rabbi Bartanura, that even though that these types of chametz you're not transgressing on them on Passover because of Bal Yura Bal Yimotze, it's forbidden to have them in your house, but if you do have them in your house, you're not transgressing. Then nevertheless, it's obvious for the rabbis, chayev, nevertheless, you are chayev, you are obligated, you are guilty according to the rabbis, if you do not get rid of them in Erev Pesach. You have to get rid of it. It's sort of like when you're driving, there's a yellow light. So a yellow light, you're supposed to stop for a yellow light. But if you don't get punished. Here's the same type of thing. We're talking over here about chametz that is not fit to eat, and it doesn't have a punishment of getting beaten, but nevertheless, you have to get rid of it. And that's what this Mishnah is talking about. These are types of chametz that are not obviously forbidden from the Torah. Elo over in Pesach, these are the types of chametz which you transgress on Pesach. Let's not say transgress, that you have to get rid of. Overing means you have to over min olam. You have to get rid of them. Elu ma'avirim mitabrim min olam. You have to get rid of them from the world. Some people say language of Mishnah is elu ovrin min olam. Some people have that in the Mishnah. It says that you have to get rid of them from the world. In other words, shemavarim otom, you have to get rid of them before Passover. You have to get rid of them before Passover. You should not have these things in your house. What are they? These are things that are not really edible or edible. I'm sorry, edible. They're not edible. Or it's a mixture that there's less than the critical mass of chametz mixed in there, so it's not really punishable. Let's take an example. Kuta habavli. This is some sort of a rotev that it's like a, what is it? A dip, a Babylonian dip. What's it made of? Terrible stuff, but nevertheless, they used to make it. It's made from, in Babel, they would they would make it by means of like this sort of skimmed milk and pieces of bread that were sort of with a little bit of a mold on them and salt. Who would eat this? I guess the Babylonians would eat it. It must have been pretty tasty. And Shechar Hamadi, beer, it says beer, that they would make it in Madai, Misorim Ashurim B'mayim, from barley that was soaked in water. Chometz Adomi, Edomian vinegar. Chometz Yayin, this is vinegar, wine vinegar that came from the land of Edom. Maybe this means Italy. Shemarvim Bo'sorim, it was mixed in it barley. Barley is forbidden on Passover. And Zitom Amitzri. What's Zitom? Another type of a drink. Means shechar, some sort of a drink that they would make in Egypt from barley and karkum. Karkum is some sort of saffron or something, and salt. Anyway, these four types, which are called Arba Mina Medina, these are called the four types of the Medina, Bavli. This is called types they're called after countries. Countries, what do we say? Babylonian dip, Madai. I guess that's Greece. Who knows? Grecian beer, vinegar from Edom, Italian vinegar, and Egyptian another type of beer, Egyptian beer. All of these things are complete chametz, but because it's not visible, it's only mixed in with others. And each one of them is mixed a type of grain. But if you eat them, usually there is the amount, like we said before, these are things which you usually eat the amount in 5 minutes. When you eat them, you have consumed, along with all the other things that are there, there's also 1 kazayat of chametz. So even though it's mixed in, it's not forbidden in this way directly in kores to get cut off, but it is punishable by lashes, like we explained in the preparation for our Mishnah. Also, here's other things. Zomen shel tzvayim. This is water which is mixed in with chaff from grains that the painters use it somehow or other for their job. Ask painters what they do with this. I have absolutely no idea, but painters would use this water which is mixed in with chaff from the grains. And amilan shel tavachim, and also starch, which is used by bakers. Pacha tavachim osim, that this is bread that the bakers use, bread that the bakers or chefs use from grains that were not yet 1/3 grown. That was not really edible, and they would cover the pot in order to draw out from it all of the foam and the things that they didn't want. They would cover the pot. And also kolon shel sofrim. This is some sort of glue that was made from flour that the sofrim, that the scribes would stick their papers together with, as if they were making books or whatever. These 3 types are called shlosh mine umaniot. These, the first 4, those were called 4 countries, because there's what beer from this place and the dip from this place. These are called 3. These types of chametz are called 3 types of working men. for special work. Him chometz, these type, which is called chometz nuksha. This is what's called light chometz. Even though that it's visible, like starch or something like that, like this is like chometz, but it's not fit for eating. And it's also, but it's not mixed up necessarily with other things. But nobody's going to eat starch, and nobody's going to eat these things. Rabbi Eliezer, some people say Rabbi Elazar, and says also tachshite nashim, also women's jewelry. Women's jewelry has chametz on it, and the Gemara manhigim maghim, the Mishnah saying in the Gemara, they fix up the version of our Mishnah, and it says not tachshite nashim, but tipule nashim. Don't say it means women's jewelry, but it means women's cosmetics. The hainu asama money, the cosmetics that are mixed up with grains that women use them on their skin in order to remove hair or whatever. Rabbi Eliezer, he adds on the Tanakama that even chometz nuksha, by means of tarovas, even this hard chometz, which is by means of a mixture, it's forbidden to keep it on Passover. You have to get rid of this starch and things like that. You've got to get rid of it, even though it's not edible. That, who says that? Rabbi Eliezer. But the Chachamim, they say that chometz nuksha, if you have chometz which is starch or something that's totally not edible, if you mix it in together, then it's not forbidden even to keep it in the house, and you don't have to get rid of it because you're no worry you're going to eat it. It's not really edible. Says the Mishnah, this is the general principle. Anything which is a type of a grain, any chometz which comes from the 5 types of grains, namely wheat, barley, rye, oats, and what did we say the last one was? Rye, oats, and skip my mind. It wasn't, spelt. Spelt, whatever spelt is. I don't know if I ever ate spelt. Anyway, these 5 types of grains, even if they are mixed in with other types, but they are transgressing with Van Pesach, not transgressing. You have to get rid of them from the world. Ma'avirim means to get rid of them from the world. Over means to transgress, but over also means to get rid of from the world. In other words, that it is forbidden to keep them on Shabbat and you have on Pesach, and you have to get rid of them. All these things that we said before, these are ba'azara. It is a forbidden law. It is forbidden from the Torah. It's a prohibition. Azara means a prohibition. That anyone who eats them has transgressed a negative commandment. You've gone against God's will. What says, Kol machmetzes lo tochelo, any forbidden chometz that is mixed up, you can't eat it. But nevertheless, there's not because of koret. A person does not get cut off from eating this. Sharakim chometz gamor. Only if there is visible chometz like bread or cookies, and it's visible, is a person punishable by koret, by getting cut off. And not if it's mixed up or a chometz nuksha, like we learned in the introduction to our Mishnah. Some people say that zeh klal, that what it says, zeh klal. What does it mean, zeh klal? Let's go back to the Mishnah just 1 second. Here. Zeh klal, this is the general principle. Anything which is made from these grains, he transgresses on Pesach. But these are only on a warning. All these that we mentioned above, they do not get cut off from. If it's really chametz, you can see it's transgressing the Pesach. But all these that we talked about here, this Babylonian dip and Median beer and etc., these things are not punishable by koret, by getting cut off. So it says, no, it should be tipuli, cosmetics of women. Namely, the women use this for their perfume or for their whatever it is, their lipstick or whatever they use. Kol shu min dagan, from these types of, they're mixed and with it water. That if there's no water, but just fruit juice, so we've said that fruit juice is exempt. So that's what the general principle is. And the general principle is anything which is a, are we doing right? Yes. No. We went too far. Sorry. That was the Bartanura. So we'll have to learn this tomorrow. All right. It's just this and this klal, this general principle. Anything which comes from these 5 types, you're transgressing on Pesach. But all of these, they're only a negative commandments, and there's no punishment of koret, of getting cut off. Only on really chametz that you can see is, some people say this is the kalal, this is the end of the first words of the Tanakama, and we're going to finish this, God willing, tomorrow. Let's finish this because I don't want to rush through this. Let's just finish this end part tomorrow. God bless you all. See you tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning. Shalom uvracha.